Hey guys, welcome to Motoroids. My name is Amit and this is the new Brezza, the 2022 Brezza, the very popular Brezza. And in its new avatar, a lot of changes have been made to the car, and the most significant of those obviously is the fact that it now gets an engine with dual jet and dual VVT, and what that really has done is improve the tractability and usability and efficiency of this car by some margin. The unit also feels very refined, and the first thing that a lot of people are looking at is fuel efficiency, and that's where this car really shines. And despite being a 1.5 liter petrol engine, where all the other cars in the segment are either 1 liter or 1.2 liter, what you have here is an engine which is very tractable, very refined, and despite being big, it's very usable. So if you compare it with some other cars in the segment, you either have small naturally aspirated engines which have 83 PS of power and about 114 Newton meters of torque. Compared to those naturally aspirated engines, this one has a significant advantage: 103 PS of power and 137 Newton meters of torque, which makes it more powerful, a lot more intent. But if you compare it with the turbo engines, there you have more power. For example, Hyundai and Sonnet have turbo engines which produce 120 PS of power and 172 Newton meters of torque. Also, the XUV300's petrol engine produces 200 Newton meters of torque. Even Tata's engine is slightly more powerful in terms of power and torque both. But if you talk about only the naturally aspirated engines, this is the most powerful engine out there. The Khakhi and Magnite have smaller engines, and really speaking, those engines are a segment below and don't match up with the other cars. But this engine is the most powerful and the most stocky naturally aspirated engine. But the more important part of this whole equation is that since this is a naturally aspirated engine, there is absolutely no turbo lag, and that really endows this car with a lot of tractability. So even from as low as 1000 RPM, there is a very perceptible sense of movement. And even if you're in the fifth gear, this car can move very easily from 37-38 kilometers per hour without any spluttering or stuttering. Even in the fourth gear from 30 kilometers per hour. So if you're driving within the city, you will not really need to shift gears much, and there is very perceptible sense of movement. It's not like there's a lag and you have to wait. From the bottom of the rev range, you have movement. So if you're driving in the city, from a usability perspective, the torque and power on this car is very usable from the bottom of the rev range. From that point onwards, the progress is very linear, and the red line of 6200 RPM is reached very easily. Although the engine gets a little noisy after 3,500 RPM, but as we all know, for all practical purposes, most of the cars spend most of their lives within the city between 1000 and 2000 RPM, and that's where this car really shines. The usability of this car is fantastic, and the mileage, the fuel efficiency here, official number is 20.15 kmpl, and this can easily surpass that. You can get about 21-22 kmpl if you're driving on an open highway, and if you're not in a rush, you'll easily get about 20 kmpl, and within the city also 14 to 15 kmpl is easy. Now that really is to say something about a car which is this big and comes with an engine this big. So in that sense, fuel efficiency on this car, despite its power and performance figures, is something that you really have to understand and appreciate. Talking about gear speeds, in the first gear you'll be able to see this car cross 40, in the second gear it'll cross 80, and in the third gear 120. And about cruising speeds, it does 80 at slightly above 2000 RPM and does 100 at slightly below 3000 RPM. If you talk about the 0 to 100 times, it does its 0 to 100 run in about 13 seconds, which is not the quickest, but is reasonably fair. In all fairness, I think this is not a car for the enthusiast. It's tuned towards comfort, it's tuned towards fuel efficiency, tractability, usability. Even the gearbox, if you go to see, this manual 5-speed gearbox has short throws. The clutch has a very light action, and the gearbox is very slick, which means that even if you're driving the manual, it's not going to trouble you much, even in stop-start traffic. So in that sense, it's a very usable, very practical car. Now, talking about the enthusiasts, it's not a car which is meant for the enthusiasts, because the steering here is quite inert at dead center. I think it could have been more precise. Now the suspension has been worked upon, the spring ratings are changed, and it rides slightly firmer than before. It's more refined, it's more absorbent over bad surfaces. The seat of the pants experience the NVH levels, the refinement levels are better than before. However, it is not as huge an improvement as we saw on the Baleno, where the car has been completely transformed and it rides more like a European car now. This suspension is still tuned more towards comfort, and if you're trying to go around corners hard, you'll feel a certain sense of body roll. It's not completely controlled, and in that sense there are other cars in the segment, specifically the XUV 300, which handles a lot better. And if you're an enthusiast, there are some other cars which ride firmer and have a better steering also. But for all practical purposes, if you're a family, if you're driving on a variety of surfaces like well paved surfaces or rough surfaces or over potholes, the absorbency of this suspension setup is very, very good from a comfort perspective. If you're going to be driving with your family on board, this will keep everyone in utter comfort and at cruising speeds of 100, 120, where you're not rushing the car, we are not hustling the car. This comes across as a very comfortable, very practical package. So my 2 pence about this package is that it's designed kept in mind the everyday Indian customer in mind, and that's what Maruti always focuses on, what is exactly required by the market. And in that sense, it's a very well balanced package. Now, a lot of questions are asked often about the safety, and of course the NCAP ratings of this car are not available. The platform remains more or less the same. It's not been like heavily worked upon, but the chassis now has more high tensile strength steel now. So the chassis, although the numbers varied what was provided to us, but I think it's about 12 to 15 kgs heavier than what it was before. The chassis itself and the overall car, because of the features and the new body panels and everything, is about 30 to 40 kg heavier. And in Maruti's words, this should be a safer platform. Apart from that, you now also have a 6-speed automatic, and you also get paddle shifters. So the fuel efficiency figures on that car, the ARI numbers, as opposed to 20.15 on this one, are 19.85 kmpl. But in the real world, I'm pretty sure that the manual will return a better fuel efficiency, although I'll give you my understanding of how good the fuel efficiency is on that car as well. There are a lot of features here, we're going to talk about that in a bit, but I think this car is more for someone who's looking for a no-nonsense and a very feature-rich car, by the way. Now it gets a whole bunch of new features. The fit and finish, the feel from behind the steering wheel has been significantly improved. NVH levels could probably have been a little bit better. I've seen cars in this segment which have a better NVH control, although it's above the acceptable levels, but it's not the best in segment. So as I mentioned, a lot of significant improvements have been made. The engine is a lot better, and it's utterly usable, practical, amazingly fuel efficient package that we expect a Maruti to be, and one of the most practical cars around. The only problem that you have here is that you don't have a diesel option. Forget a diesel automatic. So that really is one thing that this car lacks. So that was about the performance of the car, but I'm pretty sure you want to know how much bigger is this car as compared to the Brezza that it replaces. So in terms of the wheelbase, the width and the length, it's exactly the same, but the height has gone up by 45 mm. Comparing it with the rest of the cars in the segment, only the XUV 300 has a longer wheelbase than this, and the rest of the cars have more or less the same wheelbase. The length of most of the cars is also the same, but this is the tallest car in the segment. And also in terms of the width, only the XUV and the Nexon are wider than this. This is wider than everyone else. So it's a sizable car, and if you're buying this, you are buying a lot of space and real estate. Now let's move on to the styling part, and I'm going to talk about the functional bits more, because you've seen this car now and you probably have formed your own opinion. But still, what's important to understand here from design perspective is that Maruti's focus was to make it flatter, more muscular, and the aspect ratio has been changed in favor of width. So no matter which way you look at it, everything is now slimmer and wider. So if you look at the blinkers, they are slimmer and wider. The headlamps, they are wider set. If you look at the DRLs, they go further into the grille. If you look at the grille itself, the chrome elements are now slimmer and wider. There is a very pronounced sense of width about this car, and along with that, the bonnet has been raised so that the car also has a more planted and a more muscular stance. Now, if you look at some other elements, this grille here has this dark grey element here with the big Suzuki logo, and at the lower bumper, you have this big black element with a grey skid plate. Overall, it looks a lot muscular, a lot more purposeful than before. And in terms of features also, now there are additions. So the entire lighting set is now all LED. The headlamps as well as the fog lamps are LED. Twin projector lamps is really welcome. I think that's a good setup. And you also get a 360-degree camera, so the camera unit is sitting right here. Overall, a lot more muscular looking from the front than before, which brings me to the side. And a great takeaway for me yesterday while talking with the Maruti officials was that their purpose here was to take the belt line up and reduce the greenhouse area so that the car has that solid muscular stance and it looks more solid and more outdoorsy as an SUV. And it's very evident. The wheel arches are now more muscular, the haunches, the fenders, if you look at them, are more muscular and more angular. And overall, the car looks a lot more solid than before. The earlier car had a slightly bulbous shape on the sides. This one is more muscular and it's more straight cut. Now, the ground clearance here is 200 mm, and if you look at the wheels also, they are 215 section tires with 16-inch wheels, and these are two-tone, really premium looking wheels which are really nice. And earlier wheels were not as beautiful looking. You have discs up front and drums at the rear. Apart from that, now you get this beautiful two-tone treatment with a floating roof effect. So you have 6 solid colors to choose from and 3 two-tone colors. Another important bit that you do well to know is that now these roof rails are functional and can bear a load of 40 kgs. Earlier they were not functional. You also get this sunroof, although it's not the biggest of the units, but you definitely now get this sliding and tilt sunroof, which is really welcome. You get this shark fin antenna, and overall with this black roof and this little spoiler, there is a sense of sportiness also about the upper part of this car. So all in all, from the side also, it looks more muscular and more purposeful. The ORVMs are mounted with these blinkers, and you have this 360-degree camera unit sitting right here. Now, when I talk about the width, the visual width of the car, it's at the rear where the car really looks the most purposeful, and this is where the extension of the tail lamps is the most visible. As I mentioned, the aspect ratio is oriented more towards width, and these slim tail lamps really go a long way in highlighting that this car is a very wide car. You have this tail lamp unit as an LED unit, but these two, the reverse and the blinkers, are bulbs. The Brezza lettering also is spread out and adds to the visual width of the car. And at the bottom end of the bumper, you have this grey skid plate and this black cladding. You also have these sensors. But now from the rear especially, I really like how this car looks. If you're following this car, it really looks very wide, very squat, very muscular and very purposeful. A small design detail that you'd probably know well to notice are these ribbed surfaces between this cladding and the skid plate. All in all, a good job done, especially at the rear. To finish things off, you also have this high mount stop lamp, rear wash and wipe and defogger. Now, since we're talking about the rear of the car, let's open the boot as well, and we have put some stuff here for reference for your perspective. And this space here is 328 liters. So the Venue and the Nexon have about 350 liters. The Sonnet claims to have 392 liters, which is segment leading. But if you compare it with the XUV, that car has less than 300, and that really is the Achilles heel of that car. But I think it's par for course, and for a small family, for a weekend, this space is sufficient. You have a small illumination unit here and a hook here which can bear some load, and you also have these two little trays here on the sides. The spare wheel is a steel unit, 16-incher, full-sized tire, but not an alloy. Now, an important thing to note here is that the seats are 60-40 split. So now, if you are traveling with only 3 on board, you can really flip down one of the seats to extend your load capacity, and you can put in more luggage as well. So all in all, a fairly well-equipped car from the outside, and it really looks a lot better than before, has a more muscular stance. Let's get inside, because there are a lot of new features that have been introduced, and while there are some segment first features, there are some features that are missing as well, and I'm pretty sure that you want to know about all of them. Now let's have a look at the key first, and it's a simplistic looking key with Suzuki logo and this blue background lock and unlock buttons, and you don't really have to take the key out from your pocket, just press this little button here and the doors will open. The mirrors are folding and the seat height here is ideal for any height. Getting inside is a breeze. The door panel is made of long lasting black plastic. It's not soft to touch, but it's finished very well. You have this fabric here which is soft to touch. You don't have any Rexine or fall leather here. Lock unlock button, electric controls which have been moved from here to here. The driver's side window is one touch down. You have this grey insert, space for a 1 liter water bottle and some more space which I've utilized for putting my papers. And you also have this chrome door pull. Get inside and you'd see this whole array of buttons here which we have seen before with the Baleno as well, and which also reflects the new features that this car has got. The head up display button is right here, and let's use this push button start as well to initiate everything. And you have to long press this and then the HUD will go up, and these buttons here are basically to increase or decrease the brightness as well as to change the position of what you're seeing there. You can turn ESP off, traction control off from here, and this button here is for the 360-degree camera that I just showed you. This is the leveler, and by pressing this button you can turn the auto start stop on or off. You have a dead pedal here, and these are the buttons for bonnet release and fuel lid release. The fuel tank capacity is 48 liters. Now you also get driver seat height adjust, and in addition to a longer movement for the seat fore and aft adjustment, this tilt and telescopic steering wheel really helps you find your driver's position very easily. Plus Maruti Suzuki have also worked extensively on improving the ergonomics of this car. So for example, this screen here is closer to the driver, while this part has been pushed inside to increase the knee room. So in that sense, a lot of changes have been made to improve the ergonomics of the car, and now you can really feel more comfortable and more corseted inside the cabin of this car. The steering wheel also is new, it's decut, and on the automatic variant you will also get paddle shifters. It's all very easy to understand, and the instrument console also, although it's not fully digital, but I really like it this way, where all the information is very easily available. You can just browse through all the information very easily. Although your tacho and speedo are analog along with the engine temperature gauge and the fuel gauge. I really like this. The headlamps are automatic and it says so on the stock. You also have voice commands, but you really don't have a very extensive set of voice commands on this car. The AC vents are horizontally laid out and they are sturdy as ever. Now talking about the new features, still the sunroof, as I mentioned, is new and it's one touch operated, and it opens this much. Not the biggest of the sunroofs, but it's still a welcome inclusion. There's this sunglass holder also, two lights, and the good thing about the sunroof is that it's sliding and tilt. There's a toll ticket holder here, but on this side you will get this illuminated vanity mirror. Now another great feature inclusion is that of this wireless charger, and as you can see right now, if you place your phone correctly, this amber light will convert to blue, which means your phone is charging. But if you misalign it or don't put it properly, sometimes when it's half charging or like losing connection, it will turn red and it will start blinking to let you know that your phone is not charging or the phone has not been put properly. This space can also be used for putting your cell phone or wallet as a storage space. You have a 12-volt power socket with cover, and you have this connection here as a USB socket as well. Now this 9-inch screen is the top of the line Smart Play Pro Plus version, and on the lower variants you'll get a smaller screen. And I really have to say that Maruti have done a fantastic job with the screen. It's very high resolution and your touch response is fantastic. It's very good. So in that sense, Maruti have really not just caught up but outpaced some of its rivals also, and it's a very nice system. For the top of the line variant, you'll also get Archimeds Surround Sense system, which is the best sounding of the lot. For the mid variants, you'll get Archimeds sound, but for the lower variants, you won't. And on the lower variants, the screen size is also smaller. The sound quality here is something really impressive, and that's again a huge improvement which you cannot put down in specifications, but the quality of the sound on this new car is a lot better than before. So if you're someone who likes the sound on his car, this is a major improvement over what you got on the Brezza in the previous iteration. Now you also get Suzuki Connect here, so all the connected car features are there, more than 40 connected car features along with Alexa, and you can also remotely change the temperature of your car if you have the automatic variant. So in terms of connected car features, also this car is right there. You get automatic AC. If you compare it with, say, the XUV 300, it has a dual zone AC, but I think for this segment this is more than sufficient. You'd also probably want to have a look at the 360-degree camera, which is a new inclusion on this car, and by pressing this button you'll get there and it shows you a projection of the car. We have seen this before, but I'm still showing it to you. Press this button and it'll show you a projection from the inside of the car. Put it in reverse and you can change your views, and as you can see right now, you can also have a look at the wheel or a 360-degree view along with the rear view. Plus you also get your guidelines. So all of that is a great feature to have. Now in terms of storage spaces, this is an open area where you can probably put your wallet or the car key, 2 cup holders, and this armrest is sliding, adds significantly to the comfort. Earlier it was not sliding, now it is, and there is some amount of space underneath. Just to give you an idea, I'll put my wallet here and you'd be able to understand how much space you have here. The dashboard is again completely redesigned and looks a lot more premium than before. This is all still hard plastic, but very hard wearing, very reliable, very long lasting, and it's a cascading waterfall kind of layout that has been given to the dashboard. So if you see, there are multiple layers. So within the dashboard, the black part itself, you have 2 layers, and then you have this gray insert and this brown insert. The quality is all good. It's not very premium, but everything has been finished very well. If you compare it with some other cars in the segment, maybe they have slightly better materials, but I'm not complaining because I know that none of the cars in this segment are offering very premium materials. The IRVM is auto dimming, and the glove box also gets a cooling function, which is fantastic. The car will get 6 airbags in the top of the line variant with hill hold and traction control, ESP, all of that is there. Although the NCAP rating has not been shared and the car would probably be tested, and we'll let you know when we know the NCAP rating of this car. Now if you talk about this dashboard and the entire feel of this car, what Maruti have really worked on is the ergonomics, and you can really reach all the controls very easily. Plus they have, again, just like the outside, tried to build on the visual width of the car. So while the cabin itself is the same width, if you look at the dash, what they have done is they have changed the design and they have scooped these sides of the door out to add 40 mm of width to the dashboard, and that really makes you feel like you're sitting in a wider car. So that really makes you feel like you're sitting in a bigger, wider and a little bit more premium car. So that's how they have tried to highlight that this car is visually wider, and that really is something that you'll probably notice once you're sitting in this cabin. Now the seats are reasonably well padded, although I've seen firmer and nicer padded seats, but these seats are new generation and they're better than the version that they replace. The bolstering is pretty good. You also get height adjustable seat belts, and in terms of thigh support and comfort, I think you'd be able to drive this car for very long journeys, although I cannot really say that this is the most comfortable set of seats that we have in the segment. So in its own right, the Brezza has some features which are segment leading, like the HUD. Even the 360-degree camera is not available in its immediate rivals. The Magnite has it, but that's not an immediate rival. So in that sense, this car has some really good features, and it has caught up where it was lacking. But if you really have to talk about some features which are missing, it doesn't have an air purifier or ventilated seats or puddle lamps on ORVMs like the Venue has, or electric seat which Venue has introduced to the segment. It also does not come with a diesel auto. The XUV comes with a dual zone climate control. The XUV also gets all discs, and the XUV also gets heated ORVMs, and another feature that's missing here is TPMS. But all in all, I think it's a very functional interior, and some of the features that you really want are here. And Maruti generally works on aspects which really matter to the audience, and in that sense, I think the people who sit here will find it very, very well equipped. Now let's get to the back seat and see how much space we have there and what are the features that we have there and the ones that we don't. Now the materials and everything else is pretty similar to what we saw on the front door panel, and this dark grey insert is here with fabric upholstery, chrome door pull and space for a water bottle that can probably be bigger than 1 liter as well. The seat height is also close to ideal, and getting inside is a breeze. Of course, it's a Brezza. Knee room, thigh support, leg room, no problem. Headroom, fantastic. Even if you are say 6'3" or 6'4", I don't think it should be a problem. It's a fantastic, very wide, airy kind of an experience that you get from here. And again, like the front, the padding here could have been firmer. I think I've seen firmer padding on some cars, but I'm not complaining. It's just that there are some better padded cars. This is also good. Now, one feature that again has been introduced to the segment is in the venue, where you have the seat recline angle adjustment. So that feature is not here. But apart from that, I think the space is pretty good, and this seat is 60-40 split, so you can extend the boot area. Also, being one of the wider cars in the segment, this car is pretty capable of carrying 3 people abreast for short to medium journeys. Although sub 4 meter cars don't have the capability to take people for long drives with 3 in the back seat. This armrest is really useful, and it's pretty wide, so 2 people can sit very comfortably without rubbing their elbows or arms. 2 cup holders here. So a very nifty feature, adjustable headrests, which I personally believe is very useful. You have these 2 handles with coat hooks, although a light is missing here, and that has been moved to the back for some reason. I think this light would have been better placed here. I don't know why they have placed it there. An AC in India is always welcome, and the rear AC vents are there doing their duty. I think that's a good feature to have, and we are not missing it here. One normal type A and one type C socket, so you can really charge your equipment without having to fight for the slots. You have a 4 kg load bearing hook here, and this space on the back of the front seat. These seats also have ISOFIX child seat mounts, so that part has also been taken care of. And if you really talk about the airiness here, the cabin space, it really is one of the most spacious cars in the segment, no doubt about that. Although the belt line has been raised, so the sense of light that you get inside is not as pronounced as before, but it's one of the most comfortable cars to sit in the back seat of, because the suspension is also very supple and absorbent. So apart from the recline angle, which is a new introduction in the segment by Venue, I don't really have any complaints with the back seat. I think it's a very, very well done job. Now, as you would have realized, this is a significant upgrade from the car that it replaces, and Maruti Suzuki cars are generally known to offer a discount to the cars in the same segment and retail for a lower price tag. But with the Brezza, the upgrade has been so significant that now Maruti has raised the prices to a level where not just this car matches the other cars in the segment, but also for some variants is quite expensive as well. So there are some really big takeaways from this review. A, the engine here is the biggest in the segment, so that again is a cost to the company. And there are some very strong advantages like the big cabin space and the fuel efficiency on this car. And the features that really matter, it also has some segment first. The quality of the camera is very good. It gets an HUD. But having said all of that, you compare the prices, and the top of the line petrol automatic of this car is in fact more expensive than the Kia Sonet diesel automatic, which is a bit of a surprise for me, because a diesel is inherently more expensive and a diesel automatic is generally a lot more expensive than its petrol counterpart. So if I really have to put things in perspective, let me compare the prices of all the cars in the segment. Now the Brezza starts at 8 lakh rupees, and for the top of the line ZXI Plus manual, it goes till 12.3 lakh rupees. Compare that with the Venue, which starts at 7.5 lakh rupees, 50,000 rupees less, and the top variant also is 40,000 rupees less at 11.92 lakh rupees. The Sonet starts at 85,000 rupees less at 7.15, although you have to understand that those cars have a smaller engine in the naturally aspirated version, 1.2 liter only, but its top end manual variant goes to 12.45 lakh rupees, which is 15,000 rupees more expensive than this car. The next one also starts at about 45,000 rupees less and ends at 12 lakh rupees, but I really think that the powertrain on this car is way superior to the next one. The XUV has a very powerful petrol engine and it's more expensive also, starts at 8.4 lakh rupees and goes till 12.4 lakh rupees. Now, automatic, which is an imported unit, the transmission is imported, is where the difference is more pronounced. The petrol automatic starts at 11 lakh rupees from the VXI and goes all the way to 13.8 lakh rupees, which is almost 14 lakh rupees. Now, if you really compare it with other cars in this segment, the Venue does not have a diesel automatic, but if you want to compare the petrol automatic, the top of the line petrol automatic there is 12.57 lakh rupees, which is 1.23 lakh rupees cheaper than this car here. In fact, the Venue diesel automatic is 13.7 lakh rupees, which is about 10,000 rupees less expensive than this. Venue's top of the line automatic is 13.1 lakh rupees, which is 70,000 rupees. Venue's top of the line petrol automatic is 13.1 lakh rupees, which is about 70,000 rupees less as compared to this car. The XUV 300 has always been an expensive car, and that is the only car which is more expensive at 14.06 lakh rupees. But the starting petrol automatics on all the cars are less expensive than the VXI on this one. If you want value with less powerful engines, you can also go with the Magnite and the Kiger, but the engines there are much smaller and the power also is a lot less than all of the other cars in the segment. But if you want something very practical, something which is very tractable, has great fuel efficiency, very usable on a day-to-day basis, and something that is going to keep your mind free from all the government regulations, also will return you great fuel efficiency with a great resale value, will offer you great space inside, then this car definitely has to be checked out, although it does not come with a diesel or obviously a diesel automatic. But if you want a practical car for family, you cannot be making a decision without having test driven this car. It does check all the boxes, but in my books the only problem this time is that the price has gone slightly higher than we expected. I hope that I was able to answer all your questions about this beautiful new car in this extensive review. And if you like our long format content, do hit that like button. Your love is our only motivation. Subscribe to our channel and do share your thoughts in the comment section. Do share it with your friends on WhatsApp and Facebook as much as you can. And until next time, this is your friend Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.